turn the volume knob up a click and settle on in. Welcome back to the table, everyone. This is episode 8 of Tracking Vector, the Star Wars Unlimited podcast, where we cut through the online algorithm noise and focus on the real tabletop strategy, some of our grassroots community culture, and of course the material joy of the hobby. That's right, what you can put your hands on. I'm your host, Taco Pete. Today's flight plan's titled Execute Order 6-7, the Imperial Ping Engine. Yes, it's cringy, and yes, that's of my own creation, and I'm totally owning it. Probably going to be the best episode ever. Today we're going to settle back into our home base rhythm. It's after that massive convention run we had at the Galactics 2026. So we are diving in to the Imperial Aggression machine. And we're also opening up the Comm League frequency to our community as we launch the brand new interactive segment, Flight Logs. I hope everybody will tune into that afterwards. The major tournament scene is an absolute blast, but we all know the real heart and soul of this game is built week in and week out, right at our local store tables, inside the binder pages and across the kitchen table matches. That's how they roll in my house, at least. Starting right now, we're inviting all of you to transmit your thoughts, deck questions, and table stories directly to us. That's right. Keep an eye out for our flight log prompts popping up across Spotify, YouTube, and TikTok. Drop your takes in the comments and we'll broadcast them right here on air to kick off every show. Who knows, if you're a regular commenter, maybe you'll be one of our guest participants here on Tracking Vector. And speaking of the horizon ahead, the physical craft in this hobby never slows down. So while we're all out here putting miles on Ashes of the Empire decks, and let me tell you, this set has been an absolute blast. Fantasy Flight's gearing up for the launch of Set 4, Homeworlds. It's officially hitting shelves on October 9th, and this means that the local pre-release events leading up to it will take place the week before, and those are going to be hot. I'm already checking the calendar, looking to find spots near me. However, as I check that calendar, what I seem to be running into here in the Southeast is planetary qualifiers. So keep your eye out on those as well. Maybe we'll run into one another at an upcoming event. Now, between the upcoming Homeworld Spotlight decks, brand new planet-based mechanics, and some jaw-dropping accessory prototypes hitting that horizon, the material presentation of this trading card game is hitting an all-time high. This is a great time to play Star Wars. It's a fantastic time to be holding a hand of cards, and we're going to keep track of every single piece of gear, art, and strategy as this new season unfolds. And, let's let that take us right into the card art of the week. And we don't just chase ultra rare variant cards on the show. Granted, they are nice to pull, they're a blast to look at, and they look good in the binder and even better in a slab. For my collectors out there, my players just throw them out on the table. We love highlighting cards that make you stop and admire the physical cardboard. So to launch our very first Flight Logs community vote, we're going to put 2 incredible pieces on the table for y'all to vote on across Spotify, YouTube, and TikTok for episode 9. This is your chance to cue in and direct the direction of Tracking Vector. Help us plot the course. Candidate number 1 is the Legacy Run, Doom Debris. This has got art by E.J. De La Cruz. This card looks like a sheer force of momentum. It features that massive triangular transport vessel leaping through hyperspace, loaded with cargo containers along its outer hull. It's got this gorgeous view straight into the lit interior cargo bay. Dynamic composition, popping right off the card. I absolutely love this card. I'm talking specifically about the Galactic promo card on top of that. So when you're looking this up online, I'll be sure to pop one on the screen for you. Be sure you're diving into the right Legacy Run card. Candidate number 2 is going to be Moff Gideon, Remnant Commander. This one's illustrated by Brian Matias. This card looks amazing. We've got Moff Gideon, Remnant Commander as the central focal point of the card. Brian did an excellent job modeling Moff Gideon's face in this particular image and creating those textural differences that we need between the flesh of Gideon's face and, of course, the armor that he is wearing. In the background, we see two Imperial troopers at full attention standing behind him. And in the foreground, we've got this really sleek Imperial crest watermark texture running across the card face. I mean, this card's cold, it's commanding, and for me, it just radiates this pure Imperial authority. It's a command aggression card. Looks good, got a solid action. When defeated, you may return a non-Imperial unit from your discard pile to your hand, and it's also Sentinel. Solid card. Check it out. Let us know what you think. After you're done, head over to our Spotify Q&A, drop a comment on YouTube, or hit us up on the TikTok feed. Which one of those two deserves the crown for our next Flight Logs review? We'll feature the winning card and also some of the commentary on that card as to why you thought that card should rise to the top. Now, the exact balance, appreciating a card as a breathtaking piece of physical art and a lethal high-velocity tool on the battlefield, well, that's the thread that ties this entire show together. We've got that strong appreciation of the visual component, but then we are also tapping into the mechanical components of the card. And of course, here on Track and Vector, we're working to wrap it all together in that lore to core component. What's the overall narrative of the cards we play with, and how do they tap into the themes of the Star Wars universe? So coming up next in our feature segment, we're going to step away from the major tournament lights to look at the post-convention meta transition, and we're going to see how local game shops are adapting to post-Galactic 2026. So in the lore to core mechanics, we'll take a deep dive into the industrial mass production and the relentless tactical pressure of the Galactic Empire. Then in the Efficiency Engine, we'll map out a high-velocity, low-resource Empire aggression deck build, and it's going to be designed to choke out slow setups. And last but not least, we'll tap into the analog archive. I want to highlight some metal tokens that are on Etsy. I saw a lot of players using these at the Galactic's 2026 convention. You all know me. I love some high-quality tokens. We'll cover these in the analog archive. So go ahead and get comfortable, pull up a chair, grab your card sleeves, and, well, let's roll out the maps as we dive into episode 8 of Tracking Vector. All right, let's steer our radar into today's main feature, the post-convention shift. That's right, Galactics has come, Galactics has gone. We're talking Galactics 2027, we're talking planetary qualifiers, and we're talking what that scene looks like to you and your local game shops. When a major event like Galactics wraps up, the entire TCG ecosystem goes through this massive recalibration, right? So for weeks leading up to a tournament, I know you probably were. The internet's flooded with these hyper-optimized meta tier lists, stream highlights, high-stakes deck lists, and what we're doing is we are absorbing that information as best we can in the midst of everything else we have going on in our busy lives, right? So once those convention hall doors close and everyone heads back home, well, that's when the real life of a card game returns to where it actually belongs. I'm talking about the local game stores, I'm talking about the weekly casual pods, and I am certainly talking about those homebrewing tables right there in the kitchen, in the den, or wherever you pull out the mat at home and dive into a game of Star Wars Unlimited. There is a distinct, wonderful contrast between running matches under convention hall lights and rolling out a play mat at your LGS on a Tuesday night, right? At that major tournament, the room is charged with this raw competitive tension, this excitement, the absolute moment, the energy of simply being there. Every action phase is this calculated math problem. But back at your LGS, the game, the game breathes, right? You get to test out some wild home brews, you're playing with your familiar crowd, you're chatting across the table with familiar faces, and you're watching this local meta. You'll see it naturally evolve away from the rigid net decks. And that, to me, that's where the magic happens. That's where the fun is. Now we know, right? I love building some goofy decks. I brought some to Galactics. I love a thematic deck. We're going to tap into that later in the show. But it's the organic growth that happens in your local community. To me, that's the heart of Star Wars Unlimited, and I just can't seem to get enough of it. That transition, that's where the real fun of a set like Ashes of the Empire begins, right? Once the initial tournament shockwaves settle, these players, they start looking beyond the top meta leaders. They start finding new combinations to take out the meta leaders that were featured heavily in a big tournament. They're digging through binders for hidden gems, at least I know I am, and we're experimenting with these unusual aspect pairings. And we're building decks purely because the theme, right? Or the cardboard presentation, it pops, and more importantly than anything else, it just brings us a sense of joy. So, whether you are fine-tuning the deck to take down your local store championship, or prepping for a PQ, or maybe you're just making this goofy thematic combo work against a buddy, right? That local table energy, that's the true lifeblood of Star Wars Unlimited community. And speaking of thematic deck building that translates straight onto the playmat, right? It's going to take us right into the lore to core mechanics for this episode. On this segment, right, we'll look at how the design team takes decades of Star Wars cinematic history and they translate it directly into these mechanical rules on the piece of cardboard that we happen to have so much fun with on the tabletop. So today we're going to talk about the storytelling architecture of the Galactic Empire. I've focused heavily on Rebels. I have focused not so much on the Empire, so I'm going to make up for that here in episode 8. And we're going to tap right into it. When you look at Star Wars lore across the films and shows, right, the Empire, it doesn't operate like the ragtag group of rebel insurgents, and it's certainly not this guild of independent bounty hunters that we saw in Mando and Grogu. The Rebel Alliance, they win through these hit and run tactics, these clutch heroics, this sense of tactical agility, right? Because they have to. But the Empire wins through cold industrial mass production, ruthless attrition, and this overwhelming systemic firepower. And we have seen it again and again and again. We see it in the movies, and then we see it on the tabletop. When an Imperial Star Destroyer drops into orbit, or an Imperial garrison deploys onto a planet, they don't care about fair fights and elegant duels. That's not the point. The Empire is going to flood the field with replaceable TIE fighters. They're going to lock down ground sectors with heavy infantry, and they're going to chip away your defenses until you are completely and utterly suffocated under the weight of their logistics, right? I look back and I carry the vision. I can hear the sound just thinking of it, of the original trilogies when those TIE fighters would swarm out of those ships, blasting into action, right? And let's not leave out the Death Star scenes. The Emperor is coming to the Death Star to check up on things, and we've just got troop rows, columns and columns upon columns of troopers lined up in that shuttle bay to greet him. These are the numbers I'm talking about. This is not about the individual character, right? We don't know all the troopers' names. This is about the sheer industrial machine of the Galactic Empire. The Empire ran on raw numbers, right? And the rebels just could not keep up. Now, We all know in the end, the rebels still managed to find a way, but that's for another episode, okay? We'll stick to the Empire efficiency engine for this segment. And just, look at how brilliantly the Ashes of the Empire design team translated that exact industrial lore into actual card text. This is, I guess, it's probably pretty clear that I have found the Ashes set to just be an absolute blast, right? So instead of giving Imperial cards high-cost, flashy magic tricks, and I'm not saying some of them don't have it, but in mass, the set builds the Empire around this relentless ping damage, right? These low-cost units flooding the board and this systematic board control. I'm talking Mouse Droid, right? Ratcatcher, cards like Mortar Trooper, and these low-cost Imperial troopers, they're not designed to be invincible heroes. They are designed to deploy cheaply, inflict massive friction, and strip away enemy shields, leaving the targets wounded and struggling on the battlefield, right? Then on top of that, you drop support cards and command leaders like Moff Gideon to capitalize on those wounded units. You throw some advantage tokens onto the cheap troopers, which turns your low-cost fodder into lethal threats. And you aren't winning with one giant legendary unit. You, my friend, you are winning by building this cold, efficient machine that absolutely wears your opponent down turn after turn. It's a masterclass in translating movie lore straight into tabletop math. And I don't know about you, but I love it when that comes together in Star Wars Unlimited. So understanding how to pilot that cold Imperial efficiency, it's going to take us right to the playmat math of today's episode. So we're going to tap into the efficiency engine. We're going to run in the numbers on a high velocity, low resource Empire aggression deck that is built to choke out slow setups before turn 4 even ends. All right, pilots, y'all stay tuned and we'll tap right into it. All right, we've mapped out the cold industrial storytelling architecture of the Galactic Empire. We know how it works. Now let's tap into the efficiency engine, where we're going to run the numbers and look at how lore to core philosophy can translate into actual playmat velocity. And I'm telling you, I absolutely love to see these thematic decks when a player is thinking about the lore, when a player is thinking about the game mechanics and working to build a deck that brings it all together. It may not always win, but it will always be a blast to see on the tabletop game, and it's always fun to watch. So if you're looking at local store tables this week, what I'm seeing is a massive tactical trend crystallizing. Players who want to punish these slow, top-heavy setups, they're moving away from that 6-cost and 7-cost battlecruiser decks, and they're diving headlong into these low-resource velocity engines. And this set, Ashes of the Empire, we've been handed this unprecedented number of cheap Imperial units and explosive tactical aggression tools. So on paper, a 2-cost, 3-cost common trooper looks pretty unassuming. Like you're pulling this in your commons. This is not something you pull in a pack and you're like, oh yeah, this is so amazing. This is just like another trooper in the ranks. But when you stack those cheap Imperial bodies with these persistent support cards and, my favorite, the temporary advantage buffs, the mathematical ledger changes completely. The core strategy of an Empire aggression build, it's all about rapid accumulation and absolute thematic attrition. So instead of saving up your resources to drop one massive hero on turn 5, you are absolutely flooding both the ground and space arenas early on with high efficiency 2-cost and 3-cost units, and most of these units have an additional action or component to play that helps you and just chokes out the enemy. So why is this so mathematically punishing on the table? Well, I mean, for me, I think there are 3 specific efficiency factors at play. First off, let's talk about shield stripping and just general friction. If you're playing Ashes, I know you're coming up against some Mandalorian tokens. I know you're coming up against some units that come in shielded. These low-cost Imperial ping generators, like the Mortar Trooper, they enter the arena early. They don't need massive attack stacks to justify their presence, and their job is to deal one direct damage, popping enemy sentinel shields, because you and I both know your opponent's got some in their deck, and they're triggering on-damage abilities, leaving enemy defenders wounded for 0 heavy resource invested. This is a real gem we've been given in the Ashes of the Empire set. Secondly, there's this cross-faction tactical leverage that happens, right? It allows you want to keep that momentum rolling. An Imperial Commander isn't afraid to command high-velocity aggression decks. They absolutely want to hit. Take a card like Follow Me. Now, I know mechanically, it's this stellar aggression enabler. Even though the artwork gives us this fantastic rebel spotlight with Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger leading the charge, you all know I cannot help but sneak a Rebels into the episode somewhere. Or take a look at Turning Tide, right? It's a support card featuring these Mandalorian warriors. They're making this high stakes tactical drop. But both of these cards, while carrying a distinctive Rebel and Mandalorian flavor in the artwork, they fit perfectly into the Imperial Aggression build, right? They are recontextualizing those high-speed tactics as these cold, relentless Imperial command orders that just dump advantage tokens on your cheap troopers. Both of these cards are an absolute win in your deck. Third, there's the resource trade math. We are constantly making decisions in this game as we play through an episode. We're like, all right, if I do this, what's it going to cost me on the playmat? What's it going to cost me as far as resources go? And am I coming out on top? Well, you are winning the resource exchange on almost every single turn. When you take a cheap 2-cost Imperial Trooper, you buff it with these transient advantage tokens from something like Turning the Tide, and then you crash it into, and it clears out a 4-cost or 5-cost enemy defender. You've executed like this amazing tempo swing. You've kept your footprint wide. You've had minimal spend on your cards from the hand. And you've just forced your opponent to play defensively from behind. This is what I'm talking about. And I've seen at the local game shops, right, some massive per round swings built upon this strategy. And we're not even tapping into upgrades quite yet, right? There is so much potential with this type of build. Personally, for my deck, I'm looking back to JTL. I'm running hard with low-cost units, and I'm trying to flood both arenas, right? This not only makes for a great thematic approach to deck building, it's super fun to run on the table as well. Both arenas are going full force. You are flooding the playmat with units and just having an absolute blast, while your opponent's just struggling to keep up, but also sitting at awe at how good that deck is running. Now, don't underestimate the power of low curve in this set. I just take a minute, right? Dig through your collection, pull out those high efficiency, low cost Imperial Troopers, pair them with some high velocity aggression enablers, and then head out and test the velocity limits of your build. I think you're going to be amazed at how fast you can choke out a slow top heavy deck before they even reach their in-game curve. And speaking of rolling out those low-cost Imperial units and tracking your advantage tokens on the physical accessories that actually do the artwork in this game some justice, let's step away from the math ledger and take a look at the physical gear hitting our tables this week. It's time to open up the Analog Archive. As you know, in the Analog Archive portion of this show, we step away from the deck math and we highlight the physical gear, tablecraft, and that material joy that makes this TCG world go round. I'm talking about those dopamine hits from new toys on the table. Today I want to feature a piece of custom table hardware that I saw plenty of at games during the Galactic 2026 match experience. It's this custom metal token set. Looks very similar to the last token set we featured, but this set is made entirely from metal. Right now it's retailing for 95 bucks on Etsy. And if you have been listening to the show, you know that I absolutely love these high-end game pieces, right? Plastic and cardboard tokens get the job done. But man, when you're laying down this actual heavy die-cast metal token on top of a card, it just completely changes the tactile feel of the game. And these things look good. So I think the set looks awesome. At Galactics, we used it for Twin Suns play, played Premiere with it. It kept showing up on the table. Now, someone in our pod, Sean, had one of these, and you know, it was awesome to use and to see used in a range of different Star Wars Unlimited games. So this specific set includes everything you need on the mat. It's got custom metal damage counters, it's got shield tokens, it's got experience tokens, it's got these action trackers, these double-sided modifier pieces. In Twin Suns, you've got blast, you've got plan, you of course have initiative. And the physical weight of these things, it's phenomenal. They've got this real satisfying, this crisp clink when you drop them across the playmat or stack them up on an Imperial Trooper. The finish has got this weathered, sort of antique-y, metallic look, and it feels right at home in the Star Wars universe, right? It's almost like sliding a real Imperial credit, or maybe even, dare we say, some Beskar steel across that tabletop. If you want to treat your deck to a serious tactical upgrade, then check out Premiere Games. These were designed by Marshall at Premiere Games over on Etsy. I'll try to drop a direct link in the show notes. I'll post some close-up photos on the socials. You can check out the craftsmanship for yourself. These things look good. They're definitely worth checking out. And that, fellow pilots, brings our flight plan for episode 8 to a close. Don't forget, this show is officially opening up the comms, and I want to hear from you for next week's broadcast, right? So check out that card art vote. Which card art takes the crown for episode 9? I'll be running these on the socials momentarily. Is it going to be the momentum-fueled legacy run, Doom Debris, or is it going to be that cold commanding Moff Gideon? Both of these in that prestige format. They both look really good. I think you'll be impressed with either. And once you vote, be sure to tell me why you voted that way. I'll try to feature your comments on the show. Flight Log Transmissions is coming to us, right? This is going to be our new component in next week's episode 9. If you got a question about building an Imperial aggression curve, you got a favorable local game shop story, or even like if you just have a hot take on the upcoming Homeworlds set dropping in October, let me know. Transmit your takes over to us on Spotify, YouTube, or TikTok. Drop your comments on this broadcast. We'll read them right here on air to kick off episode 9. Help us keep our grassroots network growing, right? If today's episode gave you a fresh perspective for your next match, pass the link along to a buddy in your local game shop's Discord, or talk about it at your next weekly play. Until then, keep your collection safe, protect those card edges, and keep your eyes locked on the tracking vector. I'm Taco Pete. I'm signing off, and I'll see you at the tables.